What makes you afraid? Some of All Fear lives at the crossroads between our greatest phobias and the horror movies we love to experience. Part pop culture and part psychology. It's time to find out why we're all so scared of the dark. Isakovefe, Isakovefe. What?
Oh, we have coffee this morning.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to coffee.
We're podcasting in the morning.
Yeah.
Morning podcasting.
Ish.
I mean, oh well,
It's
I guess it is
fucking noon.
12:05. It feels like it's been morning. I feel like we woke up late today.
We did. We really slept in.
Yeah.
And we didn't even do that much last night. I mean, we went and saw our friend's new beautiful place that we will enjoy partying at.
Yeah.
So much.
A pool and just a fancy, nice, pretty house.
So badass. I'm so grateful that we are friends with them and that we got to kind of experience.
Got to have a cool friend.
No, I was saying that we got to experience the transition from the house that they were in to a house that they really now are in love with.
You're just excited. You're excited for the process of buying a new house ourselves.
Well, yeah, fun. I'm excited that that's possible for us too, and so that's fun. And we got to spend time with Veronica and a lot of old derby girls last night.
Yeah, a lot of roller derby, old
Cat
roller
Scratch
derby friends.
Fever. Ginger Juggernaut was there. Kitty Waxer.
Yeah. All those great
Gnarly
names.
Nailer.
Kitty Waxer's still my favorite.
Beater Venkman, which we were celebrating Venkman's upcoming nuptials, which I'm very excited for as well. So happy Beater Venkman and Blake Day.
All kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah. It was
a fun-filled evening. And we have another fun-filled evening tonight.
We do.
Yeah. We'll get to that in just a second. But welcome back, Feardos.
Hey, Feardos.
I'm Drew, and I'm the horror nerd of this duo, and this is my brilliant wife and professional mental health therapist, Kris.
Hello.
And this is what I've heard.
What?
That we're now being called the Alan Peg Bundy of podcasting.
Okay, so I like that.
You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I get a bigger wig?
I mean, I don't know where I heard that. I'm pretty sure.
Can you provide any validity to that statement?
There's no support for that statement, but I'm pretty sure that's what we're being called.
I admire that.
I like it. I mean, I do have my hand down my pants most of the time.
Yeah. And
which really gets awkward in public, but hey, you know what? What are you going to do? I got to be free, man. I got to be free.
What characteristics?
I got to be free to do me.
What characteristics of Peg Bundy do I hold?
Big boobs.
Oh.
I don't know. Nice, a nice rack.
That's the same thing. I feel like I'm being very.
You wear.
I'm being very typecast.
You wear yoga pants, which is just like her spandex.
I do.
Pants all
There's
the time.
Our relation. Yeah, and I like bonbons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, who doesn't like bonbons?
And not working.
Yeah. Sure. Why not?
No, I love working. Are you kidding me? So yeah, spandex is as far as it goes with me and Peg.
No, I mean, like I said, got a couple of other similarities.
A hot redhead.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, if you like the show, thank you for listening. Go to your podcast apps and give us a rating and a review. Please, 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 please. We would love to get some more ratings and reviews. It really helps us kind of further the podcast and get our message out there as the podcast apps all kind of recognize us and spread our message of craziness out to the world. Also, check out our social media. We're on Facebook and what are we on Facebook? Some of All Fear Podcast is what we are on Facebook with. Wow, I am just stumbling all over.
Where's the business card?
And then on Twitter and Instagram, we're at Some of All Fear Pod.
You need to tape it right up here in the corner.
Right? I have it all written down. There's no reason for forgetting any of this information. And we now have a Patreon page.
And a Patreon. Oh
which
my
we're going to get to in just a second. Yeah. So the first the first 5 people that support us on our Patreon are going to get some free swag. We're definitely going to get as soon as we get everything ordered. We just ordered stickers. So we have stickers coming.
So excited.
So that's fun.
Drew designed some amazing stickers.
Yeah, I think they'll be fun. One of them is just the logo, and then one of them just says I'm a Feardo.
So find us, message us on one of our platforms, and we'll be able to mail out some of those pretty soon. Yeah. So you can show your Feardo pride.
And I think we're going to get some pins soon.
Oh, yes.
Well. And then the next step will be to get some t-shirts made. So we're in the process. And so as soon as we get 5 Patreon supporters, we're going to get a little pack of goodies out to you. So check it out. It's patreon.com/Sum of All Fear podcast. And we have our first Patreon.
Oh, yay.
And it wasn't even a friend.
No, I mean, it would be.
It's a friend now.
But yeah, it's a friend now.
James Hudson, who's the host of the Eek Channel podcast.
Which we love.
Which I just watched and listened this
we
week.
We binged it the other day.
It was great. He gave us such a nice shout out on their show last week. So he gave us a shout out and then signed up on our Patreon.
And messaged us,
and
which was so nice.
Nice message. And their show breaks down horror movies based on theme. So they'll do like cult movies, home invasion movies.
I'm sure they've done a Dolls one.
I don't know yet. They're only like 16 episodes in. They're about the same as us, like maybe 20 episodes in. I think they're right around the same like level as us as far as like growth and number of episodes and all that kind of stuff. So, but you can find them on all your podcasting apps under Eek Channel or Eekcast. I think it's under Eek Channel. And then they're on Instagram at Eek Channel. I didn't see a Twitter for them, but I did see an Instagram page.
I just love meeting new people in the community. It's so fun.
Super cool.
People have been so welcoming and just really, really genuine.
Yeah, we really appreciate your support, James. And we, like I said, as soon as we get $5 a month Patreon supporters, we'll ship out some free shit.
Swag.
Well, not free shit because you're supporting the page. So
we won't
$5 shit.
We won't
$5 a month shit.
We just won't send out shit. I promise you. That's
no shit.
No,
but like good stuff, fun stuff, exciting stuff. And then Jen Ferratu from the Horror Virgin also sent us a really sweet message this week. Apparently, her husband is from McMinnville, Tennessee, where my whole family is from.
And you're convinced that you're somehow related.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, we got to be related probably way back somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, if they that town, like literally, like my grandparents had like every like grandmother's side, grandfather's side, both of their parents all were in that town going back to like the late 1700s, early 1800s. So lots of roots in McMinnville, Tennessee. So she's going through the podcast. She's been listening through the episodes and she's, getting caught up, and she went through the Fear of Flowers episode. And we talked about McMinnville, cause it's like the nursery capital of the world. Yeah, or something like that. So really cool. Thanks for sending us a message, Jen. We really appreciate it. Well, and if you haven't checked out the Horror Virgin podcast, it is a freaking blast, and they're blowing up. They're huge. They've gotten really big, and have a ton of listeners. They're super fun. So
well, and she's reached out too and kind of discussed some of her own fears and struggles with anxiety too. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us and being vulnerable and being willing to kind of dive in a little bit on that with us.
Yeah, I would love to have more. It'd be great to have more of you guys send in your phobias. Like what makes you afraid? That's kind of this whole thing, right? We want to all find out kind of what makes people tick and how they what scares them and what phobias they have and all that kind of fun stuff. So we would love to hear from you. That would be great. We'd love that. So yeah, thanks Jen for writing in again. And I want to give a shout out to Jake and Wayne and Lacey and Meadow Kris and Brady, who've all been coming faithfully to our Sinister Sundays horror movie night at Taste of Chicago, which is Sunday nights at 8 p.m. if you're here in Reno locally. We really appreciate all their support. They've been coming out consistently like every week. So
well, and last time we also had Kat. Kat came out. Katie came out. And we made several new friends from the Amtrak railroad system.
Yeah, there was a bunch of
railroaders,
conductors. I believe that's what they call themselves, right? Not engineers.
Not engineers.
Conductors.
They specified that.
Or do they call themselves engineers, not conductors? I don't know.
That's why I just said.
Damn it, Fat Sam, let us know. So Fat Sam was like the highlight of last week. That's how he introduced himself.
He even has Fat Sam merch, which is the best thing I've ever seen. And
he has branded himself.
It's great.
Yeah, just his personality, and he was freaking hilarious. The guy is a fucking riot. And I wished he lived in town, but he lives in the Bay Area. But he showed up. He comes up through Reno quite a bit, and so Fat Sam, when you are in Reno, please freaking send us a message on Instagram or whatever, and let us know you're in town so that we can hang out, because that was so much fun.
What's really funny is like they called themselves like dusty or greasy railroaders, and kind of that culture reminds me of so much of the mining culture that we see in like Elko. And so I can just imagine having like miners and railroaders all in one building would be so
yeah, most cool. They were just there. They liked Taste of Chicago, so they were hanging out and having food and stuff, and didn't have any clue about horror movie night. And it turns out like that Sam was like a massive horror movie
big fan.
like
and his friend, I believe his name was Jake too.
Yeah, there was a couple other guys too that we met. Yeah, that were super cool. So yeah, Sinister Sunday horror movie night has been really fun. We watched. We were gonna watch, based on this episode, we were gonna watch Child's Play, the original Child's Play tonight, but we watched all the franchise this weekend and decided it would be a lot more fun to watch Bride of Chucky.
Bride of Chucky is the best.
Hilarious. So
it's great.
I hadn't seen it in a long time. I watched it.
It's going to be so fun to watch in a group. We just need to make sure subtitles are on, because I noticed last time with Sleepaway Camp, I caught a lot more with the subtitles on.
Subtitles on at the bar.
And it was so much fun to like banter back and forth.
Yeah, I've seen that movie a ton of times, and it was fun to watch with the subtitles because I didn't realize some of the things that they said.
And like, plus, the subtitles are like fucking funny.
Yeah, that's great. So we have that tonight. We have Sinister Sunday horror movie night tonight. Sunday, we're recording on Sunday, so you guys won't listen to this until later this week, I should say. But next week, I think we're going to do Return of the Living Dead.
Right, because we've got some friends, some diligent Feardos that come out and ask that we put something on hold this weekend, right?
Yeah, because Wayne was going to be out of town, so
right.
he's like,
and
that's
Wayne's
like one of my favorite
buddy.
movies. No, I think Jake might be there tonight.
Oh, good, okay.
But yeah, Jake and Wayne have been coming out every week. Those guys are awesome, and so next week we're going to do Return of the Living Dead. Yeah, it's been a fun little deal. I really like horror movie night. If you're a Reno fan, or if you're one of our friends, come out on Sunday nights. It's so much fun. Even if you only come for half the movie or just come say hi to Kris bartending behind the bar. It's a blast. And we really want to get the Reno horror community kind of together and hanging out and watching horror movies every week. So with all of those crazy shout outs, I think it might be time for us to play a little What's the Fear?
Oh,
man. What's the Fear?
Is it time?
What the Fear?
Is it time?
I think it's time. I'm going to go this time. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Or we can do it together. No,
because I feel like I might mess up a word. So you go.
All right, it's time for the world's greatest phobia-based trivia game.
What the fear? You say it now.
What the fear?
There you go. Okay, you have to say it like that.
What the fear?
Yeah, you like my scat?
I like your scat. That's good. I like the background while I'm giving the intro.
Little did you know, I have a background in scat.
Ooh, that sounded really wrong. Let's hope we can't find your videos online anywhere.
Oh gosh.
You gross.
You're gross.
All right. Are you ready to play a little What the Fear?
I'm so ready.
All right, hold on. Let me get a sip of my coffee here.
Oh, little sirens.
Get ready. Sirens in the background.
Sipping some sirens.
Ooh, I like it.
In this neighborhood.
Yeah. Who knows? We live in a nice neighborhood.
I know.
All right. It's time for What the Fear. And if you're new to our podcast, this is our phobia-based trivia game where we give some clues. We give a phobia, we give some clues, and then you got to guess what the phobia is all about. And I tell you what, people who name phobias are assholes because they rarely have, they're not easy.
No, they're just
sometimes they are.
They're just Latin or Greek.
And sometimes, yeah, I guess. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes they're like so freaking long that you're like, there's no way that they didn't even pay attention. They just threw some consonants together, no vowels. Just it's like some sort of Nordic word. I don't know.
Strange.
Nordic.
Dang, the Nordic got to name these too?
I think so.
I did not know that.
All right. Are you ready for your first phobia?
I was born ready.
All right. Your first phobia today is Doraphobia. Doraphobia. And no, it has nothing to do with that cute little fish. Nothing.
I was thinking the Explorer.
Dora the Explorer. Wait, isn't Dora finding... Dory. Dory, not Dora. Dora was the backpack girl.
Yep.
Yeah. And Dory is the fish.
Mm-hmm. The fish with memory loss.
Now that we've had that cleared up. Would you like your hint?
Yeah.
All right. Agoraphobic probably wouldn't enjoy the smell or feel of the Terminator's jacket.
What?
Agoraphobic probably wouldn't enjoy the smell or feel of the Terminator's jacket.
Like I'll be back.
Yeah. The Terminator. Do you know who the Terminator is?
Fear of metal?
No.
Oh.
He didn't have a metal jacket, like a full metal jacket.
Yeah.
This is my rifle. This is my gun.
No, because I haven't seen the Terminator.
Well, he just has a jacket. Like, you've
What
never
kind
seen
of
a
a
picture
jacket?
of the Terminator? Good running. I mean, he just has a.
I've seen him as a robot.
He just has a leather jacket.
I've seen him as a robot.
He's just got a leather jacket on.
So it's a fear of leather?
Well, close.
Fear of bad style?
Dorophobia is the fear of fur or animal skins.
Okay.
So I'm guessing anything leather, anything, throw rugs that are made out of fur, mink coats.
Well, damn it. All of you out there that are Terminator fans are just cursing my name.
Arnold Schwarzenegger wore a leather. How many times have you seen a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger as Terminator?
How much attention did I pay is a better question to a picture of the Terminator.
You would be aware enough to know.
No, I notice things like.
Come on, where's your pop culture sensibilities? How have you never seen the Terminator? Okay, let's get back to that real quick. How have you never seen the Terminator?
Okay, so
I'm pretty possible.
You know me, right? So since I was,
I think so,
a very wee.
But do I really? Does anybody really know each other?
I don't know. It's a different question for a different podcast. Maybe Inside of Me with Michael Rosenbaum.
Michael Rosenbaum.
That's a new one. Inside of You.
Inside of You.
That's a great one. But anyways, no, I think I've seen it insofar as it was on TNT or TBS when I was growing up and probably homesick or something. And, in and out of fever, maybe watched portions of it, but have never truly sat down and actually watched any of them.
But not to even know he was wearing a leather jacket? All right.
He was a robot.
This was a robot.
He was a robot.
He was a cyborg.
Give me my next one. I'm hungry for more.
All right. We're moving on. Moving on from that
Shame. That's what I feel right now.
That was a bad hint.
Yeah, your hint sucked.
Watch, it'll turn out like he never wore a leather jacket. And I just pictured that in my head or something.
Oh man, you didn't do your research?
I mean, I didn't go find a picture. I assumed that.
Oh, FEARDOs. I'm depending on you right now. I'm
sure that the leather jacket that he wore in Terminator was on display at the Hard Rock Cafe. No, Planet Hollywood. That was in like Anaheim or something that I went to when I was a kid. Remember Planet Hollywood?
Yeah, I remember Planet Hollywood, but not literally one item that I saw at a Planet Hollywood ever.
Well, because we went there for
like an opening or something?
A premiere of Last Action Hero.
Oh
which
my
was
gosh.
an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And he was there. And and he was standing next to his
Orange
thing.
County. It's disgusting.
All right. Your next phobia. Shut up, high desert.
Desert rats for life.
Desert rat. All right, eleutherophobia.
Wait,
eleutherophobia.
Can you say that without the marbles in your mouth?
Eleutherophobia is your next one. Eleutherophobia.
What? You just changed it on me. Can you spell it?
Eleutherophobia.
What? You just said it different.
I just said it 15 times.
Yes, differently.
Every single one was different. The spelling of this word is ELEUTHERO phobia. Eleutherophobia is my guess.
Okay, and
yeah, people with this phobia, Kris,
what?
Probably hate bald eagles, and they definitely hate the right to bear arms, and I guarantee you that they just hate America.
What?
Yeah, I bet you they hate bald eagles, right to bear arms, America. I bet you they hate Lee Greenwood songs.
What the shit? Can you sing me a Lee Greenwood song for an example?
I'm proud to be an American.
So, can you repeat all that again for me? Because
people with this phobia probably hate bald eagles. They probably hate the right to bear arms. They probably hate America. Probably hate the national anthem. I guarantee you they're sitting down. They're kneeling.
The fact that you say all of that with like a country twang accent is the thing that cracks me up the most. But it's not like fear of Hank Hill, right?
No, it's not the fear of Hank
Hill. The fear of America or
Close.
Americans?
No, not quite. No. You can have this isn't necessarily, it's not isolated to America, but America embodies this thing the best.
Freedom.
Freedom. It's the fear of freedom. You are correct. It is the fear of freedom.
You also sound like the...
I think all them dang old liberals have a fear of freedom.
You also at some points sound like...
Sound like what?
You sound like the vampire from True Blood. Too.
The
Anna Paquin's like...
The main one?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that one. I think that's a good one.
That was a good one, especially for Memorial Day. Thank you so much.
That's right. I didn't even make that.
Thank you so much to all you who have served to protect our freedom.
That's right. You don't have a fear of freedom.
No.
You're out there fighting for freedom.
Okay, Hank Hill.
Good job.
Thanks.
Way to go.
That was a fun little hint. You've redeemed yourself.
I like that one. Yeah. All right. Are you ready for your next one?
Yeah, give it to me.
Your final phobia of the day.
Let's do it.
All right. Vestiphobia. Vestiphobia. VESTI. Phobia. VESTI phobia.
What's my hint?
Your hint is that these phobics would probably enjoy spending most of their time at something like a nude beach or a nudist colony.
Wait, and they're vestiphobia? They're phobic of...
Vestiphobics. Vestiphobics. They like to hang brain, man. These guys are all about just dangling in the wind.
Is it...
and the ladies... just letting them all sway.
Is it always a dangle?
Sway and jiggle.
Is it always a day for a dangle?
Always a day for a dangle.
Because these people fear clothing.
That is correct.
Yeah!
Nicely done.
Thank you. Very fun hint. Good job. Feardo Land, if you enjoyed any of those or if you got any of those right, let us know.
Or if you have any of those phobias.
Oh, also let us know.
If you have a fear of clothing. Send in those pictures. We want to see your phobia.
Yeah, because if Drew has to go meet you entirely naked because you're so phobic, he's okay with that.
I'll do it. You know what? You're right. I will absolutely, I'll interview you at the nude beach in Tahoe.
Dude, I can already see this. It's like a Dateline, and both of you have your legs crossed with like those very square couches, and there's like a plant behind you, and you have a notepad just gently resting on your lap, and you're asking the serious questions.
Oh man, it's like when Mike Wallace is. This was my most trying interview of all time.
But can you imagine him dead ass staring into the camera, butt ass naked?
Barbara Walters.
But this has been Baba Wawa.
All right. So we've got a fun phobia today. It's one of our heavy hitters. By the way, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but we are definitely done going A through Z in our phobias. I decided that we're going to start jumping around because I just decided it'd be more fun that way. And that way we can take more listener requests. If people have things they want to hear.
We can put up polls.
And they have movies that they want to pair with them, something like that. Yeah, polls.
You tell us what you want. We're going to do some
heavy hitters, I think. So we're going to do a heavy hitter today. One of our, I think, as far as phobias go, and definitely with horror movies, it's a big one. Pediophobia, which was actually one of our What the Fears a while back too.
Are you sure it's pediophobia or is it pediophobia?
Pediophobia.
Not
Pedia.
Paedio is something different.
Pediophobia.
So it's pediophobia because it's one off of pedophobia, which is the fear of children.
Correct. Yeah. So we are going to do pediophobia today.
Pediophobia.
Pediophobia.
Stop saying pedia. It's not an encyclopedia. That's a different phobia. We're not doing that.
Pediophobia.
Pediophobia.
All right. It's time for our phobia for today. Pediophobia, the fear of dolls. Hey, Kris.
Hey, Drew.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Why, yes, I have.
When we were trying to get this podcast off the ground, we had a lot of questions. Like, how do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen to? How do we make money podcasting? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now just by reading this ad.
Right now?
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now?
That means if you want to get a podcast going and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. Join me and Kris and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. We can't wait to hear your podcast. You wanted me to be like Sugi.
Yes, that was the name.
Sugi Stackhouse.
I could not remember her name, but I could remember her real name, which is dumb.
I just can't quit you, Sugi.
Oh, gosh.
Don't go off with that werewolf. Come back to me.
Why are they always in opposition? Why can't we all just get along?
I don't know. I enjoyed True Blood. That was kind of a bonkers fucking show. It had a great soundtrack, too.
Bonkers fucking book series,
great soundtrack.
Too. It did have a good soundtrack.
Yeah, it had some of my favorite like rockabilly guys.
Yeah,
like Big Sandy and the Fly Right Boys was on that soundtrack. Kim Lenz.
Lots of Cajun music.
Yeah,
which was great.
lots of Cajun music. It was good. So Fear of Dolls. Speaking of Cajun stuff, that's a like voodoo dolls. I didn't even think about voodoo dolls.
Well, that's not Cajun. That's
sorry,
Haitian and Creole.
Creole. Yeah. Fear of Dolls. Pediophobia.
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 Pediophobia, not pediophobia.
This is a great one for horror movies. We all love creepy dolls. I have we've talked about this I think a couple of times, but and I posted up on social media this week my family's creepy doll, Brownie creepy doll.
Brownie creepy
doll is like a life-size standing up.
Doesn't she walk too when
you're supposed to hold her hand and she can walk with you? But I think over the years that mechanism isn't so good anymore.
Yeah.
But, we found this thing. I guess I thought we had found it in like the 90s. My brother said they found it in the 80s, and then just started terrifying everybody with it.
And it's child size too, right?
It's child size. Yeah, it's about the size of like a 3-year-old, or something like that, or 4-year-old.
Shit ain't right.
Yeah, and so Brownie creepy doll. We'd wake people up in the middle of the night. Or like in the morning, we'd set it up next to their bed and it was just at eye level, like of a bed. So we could just set it right next to it where like the hands were on the bed and the eyes
just
were just
looking
right at you,
which is already creepy when your actual child does in the morning.
Oh, big time. Yeah. That is terrifying. That's why these two phobias are only one letter
away because they're all fucking creepy.
Because the fear of dolls just comes from the fact that kids are pretty fucking creepy. Right? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
No, it comes down to that they bear an uncanny likeness to humans.
Oh, get all technical with me.
That's my jab.
Well, that kind of leads me to my initial question about this phobia, which is like the chicken or the egg, right? What came first? Like featuring dolls in creepy movies? Or the fear of dolls, like creating dolls in a scary light to begin with. Like we'll go back to like Talky Tina in Twilight Zone, and those kind of depictions back, in the 50s. And then we have all these movies that came after it, which depicted dolls in this like super creepy light. But you look back at some of those Victorian dolls and things like that, they are fucking terrifying, but kids are like carrying them and they're all, oh, these are so cute, So what came first, chicken or the egg? Was there a phobia of dolls before we created a phobia?
I mean, is art imitating life?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Or is life imitating art?
Exactly.
And I don't know that it matters, except to ask you, why would it matter? Which came first? I'm just curious.
I'm curious because dolls have been
why?
around for,
why does it matter?
For how many dolls have probably been around for as long as anybody could put some sticks together and create a human shape, that kids would play with dolls.
So would you say that we've always had a natural propensity towards making a likeness to ourselves from inanimate things?
Sure. Like statues and
let's go even like deeper, like stuffed animals. We personify stuffed animals.
Oh yeah.
They have lives. They talk to us. They, as kids.
What kind of stuffed animals are talking to you, Kris?
Leppy.
Let's have a conversation.
Leppy, when I was a kid, was my best friend, and I passed it down to my son, Hudson, who loves him still and does the same shit, makes Leppy talk to his other stuffed animals and makes his own inner world from it.
Sure.
That feels really safe and connected. So I don't think it's a matter of which came first. I think I need to know why that matters.
Well, I'm guessing the phobia predated 1950s TV movies. I'm sure there was a fear. I'm sure people, it's just like we say, there's literally a phobia for everything. I think going back in history, I guarantee you there's people who were creeped out by dolls before we started.
So can you have this phobia without having people first?
Well, no.
Okay.
No, well, obviously not. Yeah.
So then people came first. Can you have
any phobias without people first?
Right. So that's your question. But
we have to have brains to create our phobias.
Right. So I don't know that matters so much as to what it is that causes this kind of dissonance, this kind of off feeling when it comes to something that as children, their likenesses provide us a lot of comfort and a lot of companionship. Like, when does it turn for us? Is an easier question, I think, for me to answer.
Well, I think it takes something familiar too. It takes something that's familiar to us as children,
right?
And it's like that scene in Poltergeist with the clown, right? Where it takes something that's kind of fun,
innocuous,
and then makes it super fucked up and creepy,
dangerous.
But I think dolls, because they look like us, and because anything that looks like us in our brains has that potential to be alive, right? Or is one step from being alive,
right?
Because it looks like us, and we create our dolls to, children's toys and stuff to be as close to real as possible, right?
Right.
They laugh and they cry and they shit and they piss.
Yeah, some of them, poop and pee, and like, why do we want to clean that up? Like, maybe obviously there's value in teaching it, but like maybe hand them a child that needs some comfort, like an actual child. There's in Nevada alone, there's like 300 children in the adoption system that could use a little cuddling and TLC.
Are you calling out the toy industry right now?
Because
they need to be encouraging more adoption and less dolls.
Well, I think we should just.
I don't know if that's a hard stand.
I just think we should be encouraging more human to human interaction, and less human to thing.
But these things look like mm-hmm. people, and they try to make them to act like people. And nowadays with kind of tech savvy stuff, dolls are even more crazy. Like they can download them, download stuff onto them, and Wi-Fi and all kinds of crazy shit.
Right. And at a certain point, the way that something, it's almost like on a graph, like the way that something is very familiar to us in terms of the comfort that it provides versus how human-like it is on the bottom end of that graph. As one goes up with the other, there is a point where it reaches on the graph that it's no longer comfortable, and it immediately drops. So for instance, like as we see human likeness increase, like say an industrial robot, not mm-hmm. a whole lot of familiarity or characteristics that are human.
Just metal arms, moving and doing things.
A human robot,
not a face necessarily.
Right. Even like WALL-E couldn't be considered that because he is too humanistic. He has human facial features. The first 16 minutes of that movie has absolutely no speech.
Right.
Because it's all facial communication, but robots don't have the ability to do that. So, real true robots.
Or do they?
But as that human likeness and familiarity continues moving, moving up, if something moves, it kind of increases its familiarity with humans more, right? Whereas something that's very still doesn't increase a lot. So like say a stuffed animal, its familiarity kind of levels off at about 50%, 50% familiar, 50% human-like, because we can only project so much of human things onto that. But you get something like a doll that walks with you and is human-like, right? So that's going to be very high on the familiarity scale and very high on the human-like scale, where there comes a point where that rapidly drops off for us, and it becomes fucking creepy how similar they are to humans, and also arouse this intense feeling of intellectual uncertainty as if they're really alive.
Wow. And I think that's, it makes sense, right? I mean, anything that's going to be the more familiar it gets, the more just the creepier it gets.
Right.
Right. And I think there's just something in our brains that say that shit ain't right.
Right. It's like corpses. So think way back when folks used to take corpse family photos if a family member would die. There's something about that is not quite human, and we wonder, are they still really alive?
Yeah.
Is there something still lifelike
inside?
It arouses that uncertainty intellectually.
So fear of dolls in a way is very similar to like our fear of like zombies and things like that. It has a
zombies.
Very similar kind of connection. By the way, your phone's causing the feedback in the thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what I was pointing at.
I don't have it on airplane. I'm sorry. I needed that graph to kind of help myself explain it. So I'm sorry for the feedback.
No. I could just hear it in mine. I don't know if you could hear it on the recording or not, but we'll see. But yeah, I think there's like it's that weird zombie fear of dolls. Like there's just it's something,
it's an uneasiness
that shouldn't be. And so in our heads we create that like fear of it could all of a sudden just reanimate. It could come to life.
Like other things that fall in this category are like some really well-made prosthetic limbs that are inanimate objects that like emulate the characteristics of living things or tissues or being. There's something about that creates what's called the Uncanny Valley syndrome, which is this uneasiness with things that are human-like but also inanimate. And there's just this general uneasy feeling that is caused by our brains with these types of things.
The Uncanny Valley.
The Uncanny Valley, which is
I like that.
This was
that'd be a cool name for like a movie,
right? This was actually coined by a Japanese roboticist for the feeling of discomfort that aroused when he created things that were very similar to humans,
like AI,
but not
stuff.
Quite humans. And he said that it felt like it was unnerving that we don't quite know what they'll do because they're not human.
Right.
But they feel human.
Well, and that's just going to become more and more of a thing
as AI advances.
And so this is a specific subsection of automatonophobia.
Right.
And automatonophobia is everything from statues to mannequins to robots.
It's literally the fear
dolls,
of the fear of inanimate objects that wrongly emulate characteristics of living beings is automatonophobia.
And we'll probably, and I think, and a lot of these individual parts of automatonophobia have their own phobias.
Right.
So especially with horror movies, it's great to pair them up like individually. Like we won't talk about puppets much,
right? Because we would love to discuss that separately. There's a lot of robustness to the overarching automatonophobia characteristic phobia. Like our friend Angelica and fellow FEARDO, she struggles with automatonophobia. And when I read about this Uncanny Valley syndrome, as I kind of researched, the specific dolls one the most, I realized that this may play a role, like her brain's perception of statues
specifically for her.
Statues specifically.
Statues, which is really interesting. I was talking to somebody last night about this. And they were like, people have a fear of statues?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
But lifelike,
same phobia.
The feet, the more human-like they were, the more uneasy. And
she said it was like the gods. It's
right.
Because they're bigger than, statues are typically bigger than the actual person or bigger than the, and it's like that feeling of having that. And she actually, she commented on a post this week. So she was excited that we were doing dolls because it kind of is similar to her phobia.
I thought about her as I was researching this and just thinking, okay, so this isn't necessarily like a phobia that was learned over time. It's something that our brain perceives,
right?
Because of the uncanny likeness of these things. If a sculpture is well done, it can feel and look like skin and be very lifelike, and stone is not supposed to be skin. That's very dissonant to our brains.
Do you remember the bodies exhibit?
Yes.
Did you ever go to it?
No, but I always wanted to.
So I went to the one in Chicago years ago when it came through Chicago, and that's an interesting one because they took all the systems out.
That would fall in the corpse part of the Uncanny Valley, though.
They made they would take like the whole
nervous
system or nervous system or whatever, and they would separate it out and whatever they used
diet
to congeal it, and then put them in like running positions or riding a horse, or
that one was so
all
cool.
the just muscles, right? Just all the muscles, and so in a way that's like, it doesn't look like us, but they made it so that
us
they all looked like us. You know, they're doing normal activities,
right?
But yet have no skin and no, dude. That's crazy. I can totally see how that
definitely
kind of
falls in that uncanny valley.
We had a friend that she almost passed out in the middle and had to leave.
Yeah, and like we see on the other side of the uncanny valley, as things start to go up, you know, the highest level of getting out of the uncanny valley is actually, you know, a healthy human being that we can actually relate with. Like, hey, these are things a healthy human being's supposed to do. But as you slide back down into that valley, it gets more and more difficult for our brains to understand if this object is truly living or not.
Ooh.
So yeah, there's really some valid brain things going on during the perception of the fear of dolls and the fear of lifelike things. And of course, with any sort of phobia, it has to be persistent, excessive, and unreasonable, causing significant distress and impairment in daily functioning. A lot of times folks with this particular phobia with dolls will note that the starry eyes really give them goosebumps because
like
they are right, because they're lifelike just enough, but also
dead,
cold and hard.
Cold.
Exactly. And there's
dead
something
like a doll's
there's
eyes.
Just something inherently unnerving about that. And sets our brain alarm and our systems go off like, be fucking careful. This is uncool, basically.
So back in my hometown of San Clemente, I happened upon an article this week that introed with something that happened there a few years ago, which was an older lady. For some reason thought it would be really sweet to create dolls that looked like the children in the neighborhood, and then left them as a present on the porch of that family's home.
And people were super fucking confused as if it was a threat.
Freaking creeped out because like all of a sudden here's a doll that looks like my daughter on the porch with no like other information, just sitting there on the porch. And people fucking lost their shit and got so freaked out. I guess it went on for a while until she realized, like, I read it in the paper or something when this
people think this is weird.
And
why?
Like, oh no,
I'm trying to do a nice thing.
Like, but yeah, can you imagine like getting a doll that looked just like you on your with no context?
Yeah, you're not sure. Like
that's a great basis for a horror movie too.
Is this a threat? The Uncanny Valley. Ooh, and you could set it in the San Fernando Valley and all that shit.
Perfect.
Yes, right on. See, we're coming up with a script.
Yep, there it is. Script's done. I've already written it.
But yeah, so again, we kind of see Trademark. This Uncanny Valley appear more in adults. So it has something to do with as the brain develops, it develops a discrepancy between living and non-living, right? So as we begin to understand permanency and death and life, and as living things tend not to, or non-living things tend not to have as much human-like characteristics when we're older. You know, we don't play with dolls and inanimate things. Well, some of us might.
Yourself.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
I have my Lester doll right here.
Yeah, it's true. I can't say that, so I redact.
He's at the car, so we bring him to Sinister Sundays with us.
I know.
But he's a puppet, so.
It's a little different.
He's a ventriloquist dummy.
It's under autonomophobia, but it's under its little separate umbrella as well. So it's actually very common. The Uncanny Valley is often seen in adults, largely unstudied. It varies widely across cultures. So some cultures, dolls play such an important role in the grief process that the more lifelike they are, the more meaningful it is. And so there's kind of this reverse Uncanny Valley for some cultures. Like in Guatemalan worry dolls are very sacred items for children. And this was a tradition of the Highland Mayans, so dates way, way, way back. So there's something going on there. I wasn't really able to find any studies in terms of what may trigger the Uncanny Valley syndrome. I also didn't dive too deep into it because I know we're going to revisit it with some of these other phobias too. But within autonomophobia.
I'd be curious to see like cultures that are more myth-based cultures too, that like have a lot of symbolism and kind of worship maybe idols or altar at idols and things like that are representative of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Whether this is more common or less common than like a culture like ours that's less based on that. Because I would suspect in cultures where I guess it could go either way. Maybe you're more comfortable with those kind of things if you were in a myth-based culture that had that kind of or that culture that really centered around statues and symbols and things that were meant to show like human-like characteristics.
Mm-hmm. If that was more prevalent,
or you could be more afraid. Maybe you have more fear of them because
I would think it would be alive. I would right? think it would.
Or they have a spirit embodied in
the
them.
symbol is embodied within the item.
Or what about voodoo dolls? Like it's another one where there's a doll represents an image of a
soul
person,
and a spirit.
A soul, a spirit, something that
it wields a ton of power over an individual.
Right.
So, dolls bearing that likeness or bearing the DNA of someone within voodoo could cause a lot of damage per se.
Right.
So there's a lot of interesting ways to kind of weave this in and out of various cultures. I need to dive a little bit further, but like I said, there's going to be an opportunity to do that with, fear of statues and fear of robots and, whatever else we do with this. So I'm going to just leave everybody with that like fun nugget of the Uncanny Valley and think about
fun nugget.
#fun nugget for your brains.
Fun nugget for your brains.
So, with regards to like case studies, I found one actually based out of India from a medical student doing her dissertation. And it was actually a fear of dolls study. In 2015, there was a 12-year-old Hindu girl who had expressed this exacerbated fear that caused significant impairment and distress in her everyday functioning of dolls. So, these dolls really, she would avoid them. It would cause intense screaming and crying. And the parents tried repeated things to kind of persuade her to enjoy a doll, like a child would throughout the years. And she just never did. So, now, I will preface this by saying that they may have different standards of practices in India. So I myself may not have chosen the following
particular method.
I feel like it was a little bit deceptive of them. It was more sink or swim of a motive as exposed.
They do locked in a room with a bunch of dolls?
Kind of. And it was very Maury Povich. In my opinion.
Well, we learned we all have a little Maury Povich.
We all have a little Maury Povich in us. Now the outcome was fine, but I just don't know if I necessarily agree with the method. I would have tried a more graded exposure, something that was a little bit more graduated, providing some coping mechanisms to the child who's growing up. So they called this.
It's supposed to be bad.
They called this therapist, and the mom explained that the daughter felt like this particular doll in the house had scintillating eyes, which I thought was an interesting word. Scintillating eyes. Okay. And I don't know if that was a translation thing into English, but that was an interesting phrase. And this particular doll was kept in a case in the house, and the child would avoid being within eyesight of the doll at all costs. Since age 4, brought in at age 12. So
sometimes it feels like somebody's watching.
Large amounts of childhood anxiety have been directly linked or correlated, I should say, to an increased risk of psychological disorders in the future. So bear in mind that's a large part of her brain development period from 4 to 12. And so mom brought the daughter in, brought the doll into the therapy session without the child knowing. So brought it to the therapist beforehand. So the doll was there. Child did not. I know. I'm seeing your eyes. You feel me. You feel me, dog. And the mom and the child started the therapy session off. Then the mom left. The doll came in. The doll was left in the room with the screaming child alone.
By herself.
By herself. No therapist. No
Just
one.
lock the door.
Just lock the door.
Damn.
Her and the doll. 15 minutes of screaming and crying.
That is some Maury Povich shit.
She kept, well, this was the thing. The therapist said, I want you to keep your eyes closed. And so the child was supposed to keep her eyes closed before she brought the doll in, right? And the child mentally and emotionally knew the doll was going to be in the room, so began crying, kept her eyes closed. The doll sat in the chair, kept her eyes closed, crying, screaming for 15 minutes with her eyes closed while the doll was in the room with her alone, right? Opens her eyes after 15 minutes and says, after 15 minutes says, can I open my eyes? And then when she opened her eyes, she never feared the doll again. It was the sheer anticipation
that the doll was going to do something to
of
her,
the doll being in there and her being helpless or it coming alive. And it was the sheer anticipation of that happening that caused her such intense anxiety. And after that, she never had a problem again, according to this document. So
I'm just going to strap you to the roof of the house and we'll see if it works.
Yeah, right? Don't do that. Don't do that. I'll fucking kill you. You heard it here, folks.
You heard it here. That's a threat. That's a threat.
So yeah, when we think about like movies and how they capitalize on this cognitive dissonance with humanoid things, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Why? The brain just does not like it when things could possibly be moving behind our backs that shan't be moving.
Well, this is the basis for just a ton of really fun horror movies and lots of great creepy scenes and episodes of shows. And
so good.
Fear of dolls is it's prevalent all the way through the history of cinema. And
history in general.
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
So many notes on some fun, creepy dolls from history that we'll get to during the movie section.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I think we'll go right into, let's do some honorable mentions real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so honorable mentions. So we got, all the way through the history of cinema, there's just been these great characters within all of our horror movies. Dolls are just creepy, man.
Capitalizing on the, weird likeness to human beings.
Yeah, I mean, so, honorable mentions, we had to, what I, talked about earlier, Talky Tina, aired on November 1st, 1963. And it's one of the first Twilight Zone episodes I ever saw growing up.
Did it scar you for life?
And no, I actually just liked it. I loved Twilight Zone when I was a kid. Like I really enjoyed it. They creeped me out, but they weren't like, Twilight Zone's it's not scary. It's just they're just kind of, creepy. But I'll never forget, like, just, I'm Talky Tina and I'm going to kill you. And Telly Savalas with his, shiny bald head as the dad, just freaking out on this freaking doll. Former Bond villain. And
it was cool to see that mental breakdown.
Kojak, 1970s star, Telly Savalas. Just a great episode. And then when we had our little creepy doll, Brownie creepy doll, my brother would always hold it up, and when we were at my grandma's house and be like, I'm Talky Tina and I'm going to kill you. That was something that when I was growing up, that was kind of a part of that culture, that episode. What
about last year in our Halloween decorations, how we did the haunted playground?
Oh yeah.
And we had like
some of those pictures,
kids everywhere that we burned. All right.
And side note. So our kids, like, I'm pretty sure they think we're the most jacked up people in the world. Cause we're like decorating full blown for Halloween last year. And where
did we go?
We decided, okay, all right, boys, let's hop in the car. We're going to try to go find some decorations
Goodwill
at Goodwill
Savers
and secondhand stores. Right. So we show up and they're like, okay, what should we look for, Dad? And I'm like, well, creepy dolls. Try to find some creepy dolls. And so they're going around. I'm like, Barbies, it doesn't matter what it is. Just
my favorite husband.
Dolls.
This one's naked.
This one's naked. And I go, that's even better. And my older son looks at me and goes, what is wrong with you? And it just like dawned on me like, oh, I guess that is kind of weird.
Oh, whoops.
That's odd. But what was even worse was when we got home, I'm like, hey kids, you want to light these on fire in the backyard?
You want to melt these?
Because we melted them down and made their face all like squished up.
With lighter fluid?
With lighter fluid. And they're like,
You guys ruined my good baking pans too.
Man, that was awesome.
That was kind of fun.
And they turned out really cool.
Memories.
We made a playground in the front yard with like a sandbox and put all the
dolls. What was really funny, it was like right outside their windows too, and Hudson would like freak himself out. You could see the Uncanny Valley working in his mind.
So creepy.
He loved it, but he hated it at the same time.
So Twilight Zone, Talky Tina, one of our honorable mentions for sure. Another one is so there was a mini series that aired in the 70s, 1975, and it was a horror anthology. It was a 3-part horror anthology, all starring Karen Black, and Karen Black you will know as Mother Firefly from House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh, okay.
The blonde kind of bimbo-y. She kind of played the mom. She passed away actually not too long ago. But she was in House of a Thousand Corpses. But the part of the trilogy. So it was 3 separate kind of mini movies, right? And the part of the trilogy that preyed on this phobia was called Amelia, and it featured a wooden Zuni warrior doll that was like, I don't know how big, like
inhabited with the spirit of some
like
voodoo priest.
Of a Zuni warrior. And it comes to life and just wreaks havoc. And like stabs and like shoots.
So creepy.
It's a rad little movie though. It's super, super fun. So if you haven't seen Trilogy of Terror, that's really fun. And then honestly, I don't know that a lot of people don't even pay attention to the other 2 episodes of that. That's the one that always gets brought up,
right? Is
the Zuni warrior.
Because
doll.
That one is the one I think the most folks can kind of relate to, that creepy feeling of, well, if I had that thing in my house, I'd kind of be like, is that shit going to come alive too?
It's really fun though, especially for like mid 70s. It has like some cool, I don't know if it's animation or if it's claymation. I can't remember. I didn't watch it this week, but I can't remember how
I didn't watch it this week.
And then I talked about doing Dolls, right? Because Dolls, the Stuart Gordon movie from 1987, one of your favorites.
Yes.
You like that
Hilarious.
one. And I love Stuart Gordon. And I really wanted to focus on that one. But technically they're puppets. They're marionettes, I believe. And I was talking about it with Naylor last night, and she was like, no, they're dolls. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he was a puppet maker, because I went and read through some of the synopsises and stuff. So I decided not to do it.
In the words
real focus on it. But either way, they could be either. I mean,
in the words of Joe Bob, Google that fucker.
Google that fucker. Yeah, exactly. Google that fucker. But either way, Dolls is a great movie, even if it is puppets. And of course, we will dive into puppets at some point, big time, because of Puppet Master, Magic. There's a ton of puppet movies. Oh my gosh, there's Tales from the Crypt episodes.
Puppet Master,
Twilight Zone episodes.
The Last Reich.
There's a lot of good ones. The Last Reich. I love that one. The new Puppet Master was great. It was so funny. It had Barbara Crampton in it as a cop. And then of course there's the big one, right? The big one that's been the last few years from the Conjuring series.
The worst one
was Annabelle, and Annabelle was based on a real doll, which was a Raggedy Ann doll that Ed and Lorraine Warren, the paranormal investigators.
And you have some connection to them, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I met him in LA years ago. I was working for an organization that did research on cults and the occult, which was a really fun job. Like, I just spent my time researching cults and occultic stuff. And they were at an event, and I can't remember what the event was exactly. It was like 2001, and met them and actually talked to them a bit, kind of interviewed them a little bit for a research thing that we were doing for the organization, because we got a lot of questions about them because they were very popular. And, a lot of people just say they're just straight up frauds. I found them to be nice enough people. They were probably just frauds.
Nice people can be frauds too.
They can be frauds too. But part of me actually genuinely believe they believe that they were what they were doing.
Well, so, to be a really good fraud, you got to.
Yeah, you got to convince yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was really interesting. But yeah, so this doll, the Annabelle doll, that's the doll that Annabelle was based on, Ed and Lorraine Warren kept in their private collection. They had this private collection of like possessed memorabilia or whatever, possessed stuff that was in like this museum kind of thing at their house on the East Coast. But the Annabelle movies, obviously play that up a little bit more and made Annabelle a lot creepier than a Raggedy Ann doll. Mm-hmm. She's a pretty terrifying fucking doll in the movies.
She's awful.
And they're fun. I like them. Annabelle, I liked The Conjuring. The Conjuring was a good movie. Yeah, it's okay. I've never been like super, super in love with them, but they're fun movies. The Conjuring movie was really fun. Annabelle was okay. Annabelle Creation was terrible. They kind of started going kind of down.
As a lot of them tend to.
Annabelle something is coming out this year. There's another Annabelle movie coming out this
Annabelle
year. So,
coming again.
But it's again, they're creepy freaking doll. I mean, creepy doll movies are never going to go out of style because they're just
because the Uncanny Valley exists.
Valley, right? They prey on the fact that they just are fucked up. Like we don't like them. We don't want them around.
I don't like it. I don't trust it. I don't want it around.
So check out those for your fear of doll fetishes out there. Pediophilias.
Oh gosh, I have some fun pedophilia.
Oh yeah, you have a list of
stuff for you, right?
This has to do with possessed dolls, right?
So in my studies of fun facts along this journey,
fun facts,
fun fear facts.
We don't have a jingle for that. Our whole show is fun facts,
right? So there is actually a possessed doll Etsy page, and mind you, these things are not cheap, right? And it really kind of peaked in 2015. Even NPR did a study on these possessed doll Etsy
Annabelle,
pages.
I'm guessing.
Probably, yeah. There's probably
it was.
But
it came out in 2014. So
there apparently is a huge market for people wanting to connect with the spirits within a doll. And so, of course, this is like highly unregulated. You don't really know what kind of spirit you're getting. You can get like an evil one. You can get like maybe no spirit. Like it's a bad spirit. You get a lemon. No one cares.
It's a blind bag,
right? It's a blind bag. You really can't verify
what's behind door number 1,
right? You can't verify the hauntedness of what's inhabiting it.
And Rick Warren could.
Right.
Oh, she just passed away a couple weeks ago.
But so there's a couple of podcasts that do a really good job kind of highlighting this as well too. The McElroy boys on the My Brother
McElroy
on the My Brother and Me podcast.
My Brother and Me.
Justin, one of the brothers, or me, created a segment called the Haunted Doll Watch that actually highlights some of these dolls like each week on their podcast and the stories behind them. And so I've actually kind of taken a few of the favorite ones that you can see on some possessed doll Etsy pages and sometimes at local little museums. So I've kind of created a fun little list.
Give us that list.
Also,
man.
too,
I want to find out about these possessed dolls. How can I own one?
Also, too, This Podcast is Haunted podcast on episode 42. They did an episode on dolls and talk a lot about some of these like haunted doll legends that I'll mention.
Okay,
too.
So we have My Brother and Me podcast, and we have Haunted.
This podcast is haunted.
This podcast is haunted.
Episode 42 is the dolls one. So, so yeah, I'm gonna kind of go through a little bit of doll lore. Some you may be able to find on the haunted doll Etsy pages for not cheap amounts of money.
How not cheap are we talking here?
Oh my God. Some of them are like thousands. So not cheap. And there is a big market movement for this.
I don't know. Somebody said, do you want a car or do you want a
haunted doll?
Possessed doll?
So let's talk about Letta, the 200 or more year old childlike doll covered in wool with real human hair.
Ooh,
real human hair.
Makes it a little
200 plus years old, right? So we're talking about a long fucking time ago. And it was actually found while someone was taking a kind of like a cross-country hike or a walking trip and found a deserted home in Australia. Brought it home. Dogs feared it. Guests swore that they saw it move physically. Once they could not remove it from their vehicle, it would not like they were going to go sell it or give it away, and it would not allow it to it stuck to the car.
Wow.
And so that's a fun one. You can buy that too,
clinger.
Right? Also, Charlie the doll, which allegedly has scratched children at night. That one's actually available at an oddity shop near Salem, Massachusetts.
Well, that's a good place for it.
Yeah.
I really want to go to Salem. They have their Halloween festival every year.
I bet that's amazing.
One of the best things in the world.
Also, too, there's a person, I don't know if it's a male or female, or whatever you
Spirit.
identify as,
Demon.
that has a haunted doll gang. It's 8 haunted dolls that were surrendered to this collector. And this collector keeps a camera on them 24/7. So you can actually buy like access to watching these dolls.
Do they ever move?
They have a couple of reels.
That seems like quite the racket.
Right.
Like just some dolls. They're just, did you see? Nope. Oh, wait,
right.
Maybe. No, I don't think maybe you didn't move.
So one of my favorite ones that I found was actually Ruby the doll. Allegedly, when you held her, she made you nauseous. And my first thought was, wait, what's she stuffed with? Because depending upon how old she is, she could possibly be stuffed with something that physically would make you nauseous if you held her. So that would be my first question, right? Also, that's really sad. Like it's like in Game of Thrones with the Baratheon girl, and someone gave her a doll that had the crackling rock disease in it,
whatever it was
right
called.
So really fucked up, guys. But Ruby's out there. She's actually available, and her home she calls the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult home.
Nice.
So that one's fun.
Museum. Where's
right?
that at?
It's traveling.
Well, I know, but where's that right now?
I don't know.
I want to go to there.
I don't know. Well, also, if you really want to know somewhere to go for some really awesome dolls, the Island of Dolls in the Colimico Canal system, basically south of Mexico City. This is an island that's completely covered by broken and decaying dolls that were placed there by Julian Santana Barrera, who placed them there to appease the spirit of a drowned girl.
Oh man, I love that.
Apparently, when you're on the island, you can hear them whispering to you. Super creepy.
I want to go to there.
Don't take anything from it. And then finally, this one is my perfect segue into our feature film. Robert the Doll, who actually inspired the Child's Play movie. He is a life-size doll. He was
Robert the Doll?
Robert the Doll.
Well, I might dispute that was the inspiration, but
he was made
one of the inspirations.
One of the inspirations. He was made by
what the biggest inspiration was? My buddy, my buddy. My buddy.
No. The doll possession story. So it's a life-size doll made by a German toy company that was actually wearing a real child's sailor suit. Its expressions they reported its expressions changed, and that the doll would move on its own actively. Let's see. So
Robert the Doll.
Dressed
up like a little sailor boy.
Jean, who was his child, swore that Robert talked to him, and told Jean that Jean was the one that unleashed Robert's powers by blaming his childhood misdeeds on Robert. So there's that connection, right? Apparently, Robert was responsible for a lot of accidents, broken bones, and eventually financial ruin of the family, and is now locked in a case in a Key West museum.
Nice.
There you go.
I like it.
Yeah. So those dolls and more can be available to you
just on the eBay,
on the Etsy.
eBay. Oh, Etsy or eBay?
eBay too, but the Etsy one is what I think they did a study on.
I thought Etsy had to be like handmade stuff that was like, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I believe it's on both. Anyways, there's a big market for it. Go out there, check out the My Brother and Me podcast. They actually have on their website like kind of a list of the ones that they break down every week and the stories of the dolls.
That's so rad.
It's so good.
I want to see me some possessed dolls. I'm gonna go find me that traveling.
Well, we're going to talk about the best possessed doll right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to do it, right? I mean, this is the one, and I got to say, it's probably the one that it impacted me the most growing up because it was the first. It was the first horror movie that I ever snuck and saw with buddies. And I don't even know if we snuck and saw it because his parents didn't give a shit. So he was one of those parents. But
your parents did.
Fourth grade, Child's Play 3 had just come out, and we watched 1, 2, and 3 in one night. In fourth grade. So 10 years old, probably 9, 10 years old. But of course, that's going to be our feature presentation, right? Our feature presentation for today, 1988's Child's Play.
And now our feature presentation.
That's right, Jack. Chucky's back.
There's nothing innocent about Child's Play.
Do you remember all the ads for every remake, like every sequel? Like the ads were always so freaking hilarious.
The one-liners. Those were
so great.
Gold.
So Child's Play 1988, and the Child's Play franchise, because we'll talk. We watched all. I watched 5 of the 6 that I had yesterday. 1 through 5. So all the way up through Seed of Chucky. I started Curse of Chucky. I think it's called Curse of Chucky. The 6th one.
But it was Cult of Chucky.
No, Cult of Chucky is the most recent one.
Oh, gotcha.
That came out in 2017, which I've seen. But that one's not in that little box set, so I didn't watch that.
Okay.
And then, of course, the brand new one's coming out, which is a totally separate writer, totally separate. Nobody from the originals are associated with it at all. So we'll see how that one is. Although it does have Super Smoking Hot. What's her name from Parks and Rec? What's her name? Why can't I think of her name? I've got it written down here somewhere. Aubrey. Yeah.
Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza. Yeah. And Mark Hamill plays the voice of Chucky in that as well, which that's kind of badass too. So let's give a quick synopsis of the original here. Gunned down by Detective Mike Norris, played by Chris Sarandon, dying murderer Charles Lee Ray, played by Brad Dourif. That guy's in everything, by the way. I had no idea how much stuff that guy was actually in until I looked up his IMDb. But he uses black magic to put his soul inside a doll named Chucky, which actually the doll wasn't named Chucky. The doll was named the Good Guy Doll, and Chucky was the nickname of Charles.
And the Good Guy Doll also had available artillery such as the Good Guy Uzi.
Yeah, I noticed that on the wall when we
it was like, toy store. It was like the Good Guy archery set, the Good Guy knife, the Good Guy Uzi.
Yeah, it's up on the wall, just like the Good Guy. It's part of the good. It's one of the good guys.
Because this is what the Good Guy needs.
He comes with. He needs an Uzi. Every kid needs an Uzi. I mean, why not? So he uses black magic to put his soul inside a doll named Chucky, which Karen Barclay, played by Catherine Hicks from Seventh Heaven, then buys for her young son Andy, played by Alex Vincent. When Chucky kills Andy's babysitter, the boy realizes the doll is alive and tries to warn people, but he's institutionalized. Now Karen must convince the detective of the murderous doll's intentions before Andy becomes Chucky's next victim. Dun, dun, dun.
Tense. Such a tense.
Directed by Tom Holland, who did Fright Night and Thinner, and lots of similarities. Lots of similarities to Fright Night and a couple of other movies that Tom Holland did, whereas there was like a divorced single mom, kids seeing weird shit and nobody believes them.
Do you think he's trying to process childhood trauma?
Something. Yeah, I don't know what it is. But and then it was written by Don Mancini, who wrote all 7 of the sequel, like all 7 of the movies. The only one that he's not involved in is this new one that's coming out next month, coming out in June. He's not involved with it, has been open about like how was not interested in doing a remake. So this one's a remake of the original.
Have you seen the previews?
Yeah, it looks kind of fun. I mean, they're different. It's different. You know, it's like a buddy doll instead of a good guy doll. Right. I'm sure there's some copyright shit that they had to go through. And, the Chucky looks different a little bit. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I always kind of like giving things the benefit of the doubt.
It'll be interesting to see it using CGI because of how advanced the CGI is now.
Which, honestly, that kind of sucks to me. I like watching the old kind of effects. Right. Like in the original, they used some animatronics. They used some not midgets, little people. What's the proper nomenclature? And they used some kids too, like running around as Chucky. So they used all kinds of stuff to get, the right
human-like look,
the features or whatever. But Don Mancini wrote, I've listened to him on a couple of podcasts and he talks about, the franchise and stuff like that. But he wrote all 7. He wrote Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3, Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, and Cult of Chucky. But nobody in the production was interested in doing a remake. So whoever did the remake, whoever owns the rights, I guess, the studio or whatever, got a script for a remake, and now they're redoing it. So we'll see how that goes. But like I said, this was the first thing that I remember as a kid. We rented 1, 2, and 3 with my buddy, and his parents were just one of those oblivious parents who just didn't give a shit. So we watched all 3 of those.
No wonder you guys have such
back.
foul language.
Yeah, they do have some of that. And actually, I let the boys watch it, and I didn't remember that the original had him like
Hudson loved watching it this weekend with us.
The first thing that Chucky says in Child's Play is, "You filthy bitch, you stupid slut, I'll teach you to fuck with me." I remember when that came on, I was like, maybe my 7-year-old shouldn't be watching this.
You're a terrible parent.
I'm a parent. I'm a terrible parent. Terrible parent. Clearly a terrible parent. But during the initial release, it got a lot of bad press.
Criticism.
Oh man, it was crazy. They had like protests and
Could it have been the Uzi?
The Uzi I don't think so. No, back then every kid had an Uzi. I had a toy Uzi. That I had tons of toy guns when I was a kid. They sold those all over the place. But yeah, there was like all these demonstrations. People thought that the doll was going to help make kids violent, and I think there was even there was some case in Britain. I think.
Did they not understand the movie that the child wasn't violent?
It wasn't the child. It was the doll.
The doll. The child literally was never violent.
Actually, it's interesting. Originally, when Mancini wrote it, I think the original screenplay had the doll. Had you for most of the movie not sure whether it was the kid or the doll.
I think I would have enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I think they would have been kind of cool. But I think the direction it went, like, it ended up being so much about Chucky and about his like freaking just personality attitude and just cheesiness that it was
about a serial killer doll.
Yeah.
Well, a doll now,
but so Chucky's full name, right? Charles Lee Ray. That comes from Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, and James Earl Ray, the assassin of Martin Luther King. So, and was based on this fictional serial killer called the Lakeshore Strangler, which I've heard was, and he had a partner in the movie as well, which was like the Hillside Stranglers in LA,
right?
Which was Ken Bianchi and Bueno. But when we were growing up, specifically when I was growing up, I think you may have been even a little bit on the late side of.
I was younger
for the My Buddy stuff, but I wanted a My Buddy doll so badly. Like the jingle like was
My Buddy and Me,
and then it was like kids, and then they had kid sister, and I wanted one so bad, and my parents never got me one. But I remember friends had them, and it came out before the movie, and Mancini has explained that Chucky definitely draws heavily from My Buddy dolls. He said, this is a quote from him, in my original script, he was originally called Buddy, but we couldn't use it because of the My Buddy doll. And the director went out and got a My Buddy doll. He got a My Buddy doll, a Raggedy Ann, which is interesting, and a Raggedy Andy doll, and one of those life-size like baby infants, and told the designer that he wanted something similar to the My Buddy doll, but with like different, like a couple of little like characteristics that were different.
The orange hair
but the overalls,
the suspenders,
the overalls and the shirt
yeah.
and all that stuff. I mean, if you look at Chucky, like he's up here on the screen in our house right now. But he looks like that's kind of how the My Buddy doll looked. Just like with some more dickheadish features, So he ended up with Chucky. Chucky was what the designer ended up with.
Can you tell me what the dickheadish features are?
I don't know. There's just something about like a redheaded kid with, I don't know. I mean, he looks evil. He just looks evil. It's always the bully. Okay. I always think of the bully in A Christmas Story, right? That kid just looked like he wanted to punch his face. Like he just wanted to punch his face in. He just looked like a dick. He's a little redheaded, I don't know.
This reminds me of the scene in the very first Ash versus Evil Dead season 1 episode where the dolls come alive with the Evil Dead and start attacking him and stuff. That's what he reminds me of.
There's a kid in Hank's baseball that comes to Hank's baseball. Actually, we played against him the other day. That I always just want to punch in the face. Just
oh my God, you're so.
He looks like he has one of those faces.
You're the reason.
And he's also kind of a dick.
You're the reason Little League has a rule about not
punching kids in the face. It's a rule that they have in most places where you deal with kids. But he just has one of those punchable faces, and he's kind of an asshole too. Like the kid's like cocky. He's kind of a prick.
How are his parents? That's my first question.
Yeah, well, I know them too.
Damn.
So yeah.
Would you like some aloe for that burn?
So in the intro, right? So Charles Lee Ray, the serial killer, is like going through the toy store. And we both were like, yeah, there's a freaking good guy Uzi on the wall. There's all these good guy stuff. But it was kind of like going through my childhood. Like I saw a bunch of toys in that toy store that were from when I was a kid, like Power Play Hockey. I totally had that. They zoomed in on a bunch of like different toys.
All the stuff you wanted for Christmas.
So much fun. And then we cut to like, little Andy at home with mom.
Childlike
and
innocence.
He wants his good guy doll, but mom doesn't get it.
Because mom's a hardworking
She's
single
a
mom.
hardworking single mom.
And
but then they show him watching, he's making breakfast in bed for his mom while she's still asleep. And they show him watching that TV show, the Good Guy TV show. And it is
that thing's terrifying.
Freaking horrifying.
Terrifying.
So horrifying. There's like an animatronic like puppet like Chucky. And then there's like a good guy mascot suit guy that just looks like
a suit guy.
The freaking
thing of nightmares.
Nightmares all over the place. And so, yeah. And then eventually, mom, Seventh Heaven mom, the mom from Seventh Heaven, gets him finds this homeless guy who's selling dolls on the street or selling this doll on the street. And she buys it for like a minimum.
We learned in New Orleans,
price.
you don't buy anything.
Never buy stuff off the street.
Especially dolls. Like that's just creepy.
That's a bad idea.
It's a horrible idea.
You know there's something going to be up with that doll.
That thing is spirited.
So they end up with the doll, right? And then, the doll starts moving on its own and starts saying things and
whispering it into the child's ear.
And then talking to the kid, and the kid's like, the doll's name is Chucky. And then we have the cop, right? Well, so then we have the babysitter. We have the babysitter that comes in, which is like mom's good friend. And she's, just watching Andy while mom's working, I think. And Chucky's starts, running around the house.
Rampage.
And ends up stabbing her. What did he end up doing? He ended up pushing her, like scaring her, doing something and pushing her out the window. And she ends up falling out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Which fun fact, hashtag fun fact. The building the apartment building that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
I used to walk by it every day on my way to work. It was on Diversity Avenue in Chicago. And I remember seeing it in the movie and I was like, that looks really freaking familiar because it's got kind of a unique little look to it. And so I looked it up and I was like, hey, that's the one I used to walk by every day on my way to work. No wonder it looked familiar. The one that she goes flying out of when she gets pushed out. So yeah. And then, hilarity ensues. Chucky starts, going off and
mom finds the box and the batteries fall out.
The batteries are in there still. And, so Chucky's running on, just
so
running
then
on
she
equal
knows,
power.
She knows he is something ain't right.
Well, and then we have this whole voodoo kind of black magic thing that we find out that that's how he, somehow he learned this black magic from this voodoo priest dude.
You didn't catch that? He was in jail with the voodoo priest.
Oh, is it jail? See, I didn't catch that.
That's where they met. And then they lived together on the outside. And so they kind of taught him everything that he knew.
Interesting. So then we get the cops involved, right? Because we have the murder where we have this woman that falls out of the building and Andy's just like, Chucky did it. Look, he's got
and kids are like
on the bottom of his
they're
feet.
like, this kid's crazy.
And the cop is played by Kris Sarandon, who Fright Night again. And he's the vampire in Fright Night and Prince Humperdinck from Princess Bride.
Prince Humperdinck.
Princess Buttercup.
And Princess Buttercup.
And he plays kind of another Tom Holland movie. So Fright Night, he's in Fright Night and in this one. So he obviously liked getting Kris Sarandon in his movies apparently. So they end up starting to run around. Chucky's, going, he's got to kill his partner, right? That's like, he's got vengeance. So he's going to go kill his partner and then he's going to kill the cop. Like that's the deal, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a scene where, mom and the cop are driving. Mom's finally realized that Chucky is possessed and alive and she's trying to convince Kris Sarandon. And Kris Sarandon's like you're freaking nuts, blah, blah, blah. And then Chucky starts trying to stab him from the back seat.
And he's like, oh, never mind.
And gets
I take it back.
And then we start this whole like rampage of in the back in the apartment building, and Chucky gets lit on fire and he turns into this little.
If you haven't seen it,
burned
it's
out,
really good stuff.
Yeah, the burned out Chucky.
The burn Chucky is so. That's the look we were going for with our dolls last year.
Yeah.
But you know what they didn't have? They didn't have a skeleton inside to burn like that.
You know, another fun fact: Steven Spielberg. Originally, they were going to title Child's Play "Batteries Not Included."
Oh,
but Spielberg was coming out with the movie of the same title, like before they got the
more
title.
applicable.
So I don't know. Batteries Not Included is a pretty good title if you think about it, with the batteries falling.
I don't want to have to think about it.
That's great. And then it was changed to Blood Buddy. Blood Buddy was the other one because originally the way they were gonna get the doll, the spirit into the doll, was the kid and the doll were gonna like the doll had like real human flesh or something, or like mimicked human flesh, and you could cut it and then you could get bandages to put on the doll, and then they were going to do like the kid was going to cut his hand and do a blood pact with the doll, and that was how it was going to transfer the spirit over.
Good
or something weird
Lord,
like that.
don't do that.
That was the original deal.
No deal.
But as we watched all these sequels, right? We watched 2 and 3 and then we got to Bride of Chucky. And I've decided, hands down, my favorite.
So much fun.
Bride of Chucky with fucking Jennifer Tilly.
Great music. Great.
So good.
Great dialogue.
John Ritter. It's got John Ritter, Katherine Heigl.
Which is insane.
Which must have been one of her first movies for sure. And then Jennifer Tilly. It's phenomenal. We decided to show it at Sinister Sundays tonight, our horror movie night.
I'm really excited to watch it.
Because it's just going to be so much fun to watch with a crowd, with a group, like as opposed to the first. The first one's really fun too, but not
nearly as fun.
It's just great. Plus you got puppet on puppet sex.
I don't like that part.
Or doll on doll sex.
I'll be washing dishes.
Hey, at the end we see their baby is at the very end of the movie, and then we have the sequel for
which is weird because that means they have reproductive organs because they're turning more human.
Well, it's so great because it totally plays off of like the goth scene too.
Oh yeah,
like the obsession with serial killers and like obsession with dolls. She's her whole trailer is covered in dolls.
Such a pedophile.
Yeah, for sure.
She has got an issue.
It's great. I freaking love it.
It's fun time.
And Jennifer Tilly is just adorable. I think she's so funny. And
you don't think she's funny. You think
hot. She's got nice
hot boobs.
She's got a couple of things going for her. No, she's fantastic. And she in the seat, I think it's the Seed of Chucky one. She plays herself. Kind of like the meta kind of Nightmare on Elm Street on New Nightmare. She plays herself and like bags on herself through the whole, like self-referential stuff throughout the whole movie.
I love it when people do that.
How she's, kind of a washed up actress and all this. It's really great though. It's so freaking funny. I love people that are self-aware.
It can be done very well.
She did it.
Respect.
It was so good. But yeah, so they're coming out with the new one. Don Mancini is not involved in it. But Aubrey Plaza, Mark Hamill does the voice. And he's a great voiceover guy.
Mm-hmm. He's got a good
Joker, voice. In the Batman animated series, he was the Joker. So Mark Hamill's done some cool voiceover stuff in the past. So what I love about the new one though is their ad campaigns. Have you seen them?
Yeah, they really capitalize on childlike, innocent, and cutesy stuff, and then kind of poignantly remind you that this doll has homicidal tendencies.
No, they do the Toy Story thing.
I know.
It's totally
childlike inness,
but it's
homicidal tendencies.
It's like literally like Woody is bleeding on the ground as you see Chucky's foot walking away from it or whatever.
Hell yeah.
And then at one point he's holding the Slinky Dog like over a fire, or like half the Slinky Dog. They're coming out on the same day.
Toy Story 4,
why. Toy Story 4 and Child's Play are coming out on the same day.
Oh, wow, that makes sense.
So that is fucking hilarious.
Brilliant marketing.
Yeah, it's perfect. So that'll be fun to see.
Well, I mean, even Toy Story capitalizes on the creepiness of dolls,
Oh, big time.
That neighbor kid in the first one had those creepy, like, doll toys.
Where he mutated all the dolls and stuck them together. Like the arms on the... Yeah, those are great. Totally plays on it. And I think there's even references to I believe there's even a reference to Chucky in the Toy Story movies too. If I remember right, one of them.
Where they're like, you don't want that guy.
It's pretty rad.
You don't want that guy on your team.
So yeah, as far as doll movies go, I mean, I think Chucky's, Child's Play is probably the apex.
Yeah, if you've got
a fun doll movie.
If you've got this phobia, this would not be this series to watch. It's unnerving. The kids were unnerved by it. They kept running out of the room because whenever he moved, that freaked him out the most.
Even Hudson
kept coming back for more.
He kept coming back in. And the other day I was watching Annabelle in preparation for this too. And he could not watch Annabelle. So I don't know. I think Chucky's kind of fun enough that maybe if you had a fear of dolls, you might still be able to kind of keep one eye open.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's especially once you get into the sequels, it's so freaking just great.
It's corny. Bonkers.
But just fun movies. And honestly, rewatching them again yesterday was a blast because I hadn't seen a bunch of the sequels in years. I'd watched Child's Play, I think, last year, the original.
And we're gonna have a good time tonight watching.
I think it'll be fun.
Watching
really fun. Bride of Chucky is gonna be a blast, and I think we're gonna have a good time.
So much fun.
We're gonna start jumping around with our phobias. So, this week, when you hear this, we haven't decided what our next one will be, but send us some suggestions. We'll probably hold out on like some things like fear of clowns until maybe around the time that the new It comes out. I think that might be a good marketing ploy, right? Mm-hmm. Save up our episodes until it's trending on Twitter. The fear of clowns is trending on Twitter.
Utilize the trend.
That was kind of why I did Child's Play though too, because of the remake's coming out. So I was like, well, shit, that'd be a good time to do this one. And just it was a great, fun week of watching movies. Kind of silly fear of doll movies. Not a super heavy phobia. Kind of a fun. I mean, obviously, if you don't have that phobia, I guess. So yeah, but we'll take your suggestions. So send them to us. Give us a phobia. Give us some movies to pair them with. We would love to kind of start doing more interactive stuff with
FEARDO requests,
with the FEARDOs that are listening. Yeah. So let us know what you guys want to hear and what you guys want to do next time because we're not going to go A through Z anymore. We're going all topical. I like it better.
Me too.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And that way I don't have to be like, I don't want to watch that movie this week. I can be like, we need to do that phobia because I want to watch that movie. So with that, we're gonna go get ready for horror movie night. It's coming up here in about we're heading out in about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see some of you guys there, and we'll see you next week. If you listen to this week, come out next week. We're gonna do Return of the Living Dead, one of my all-time favorite movies. And I know Wayne and Jake both like that movie a lot too. So they said they're excited about that one. So we postponed it so they didn't have to miss it. So they can come next week and listen or watch with us. But FEARDOs with that, you know what you're supposed to do this week.
Until next time, stay afraid. Stay very afraid.